Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of All Things MSP Live. This is the show where we come on Wednesday nights and we talk about, stuff for fun. We talk about stuff with vendors. We talk about stuff with other MSPs. Now, of course, one of the things I usually do as we're setting up this show is I do go and make sure that everything's working in terms of the live streams. So let's kind of just jump over here and see. It looks like we are live. Yep, we are live on YouTube. So let me just run over there real quick. Of course, mute myself. And then, hello, YouTube. Of course, we should see that pop up. Oh, I don't have that window open. That would be important. Okay. Comments and reactions. There we go. Okay. Now that we've got that out of the way, let's go over to Facebook. Oh, actually, that was Facebook. I have my tabs wrong. Okay, LinkedIn. Hello, LinkedIn. All right, that one's showing up. And last but not least, let's go back to YouTube. Just make sure everything is working properly. It's interesting, it's not showing me a chat window. There we go. It was below the fold. That's why I didn't see it. Okay, are we good? There we go. So all three are streaming, all three, the comments are working, and it's taken me a lot longer than it usually does for me to do that. But that's okay, because really this first 5 minutes is just a chance for you guys to find out that we have gone live and for it to, kick in and be working. And it looks like we might be having some bandwidth issues tonight. Just be forewarned of that. It could be, we had some crazy storms here in Raleigh, North Carolina 2 nights ago. And we lost power for about 12 hours. And what was weird was at the same time we lost internet. Usually I lose power, but I, of course, have all of my internet equipment on UPSs, so it usually keeps running. Well, it didn't this time. So don't know. It was really kind of a freak storm. And I think there were about 250,000 people in Raleigh or in the North Carolina, Eastern North Carolina area that were without power Tuesday or Monday night. So kind of crazy. Well, we are counting down to our last couple of seconds here before we start. Let's do this thing. All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of All Things MSP. Uh, All Things MSP Live, actually. We do these live streams just about every Wednesday night so that we just get some people on here and have a chat. It's kind of the informal thing that we do. If you know, we do a podcast now that comes out every Tuesday. Uh, we do office hours. In fact, we're going to be recording an office hours for uh, channel program and their new product Navistack. So you should see that next week. And we like to bring the community together and talk about all the things that matter to the MSP community. Now, tonight, in case you haven't noticed yet, I do have a bit of a head cold. I was at ChannelCon last week, and of course, around a lot of people. Wasn't feeling bad while I was there. It must have been, the cooped up on an airplane air that kind of did me in after a couple of late nights last week. So it is not COVID. I did test, but if I need to mute myself to cough once or twice during tonight's show, you'll understand why. Now, my guest tonight is no stranger to the MSP community. He has, done a lot of stuff to really promote this industry and educate this community. And that's what we're going to be talking about a lot tonight is the importance of education. Now, we do have a couple of regular players here in the comments tonight. Degley's here. So Degley says, "Hey, Eric, so good to see you last week at ChannelCon." Yes, Degley. And by the way, thank you very much for the scones. They were amazing and definitely made my breakfast. I think it was on Wednesday morning. So definitely appreciate that. And then, of course, we have the OG. We have Keith J. Nelson, PhD, in the house. And Keith says, cigars prevent COVID. And Keith, I'll take your word for it. Cigars are one of those things I just never got into. I love the smell of cigars. In fact, I have a quick story that I'll tell about, because, smoking in restaurants not normally an okay thing, right? But we have a restaurant here in Raleigh called the Angus Barn. And they actually have a section of the restaurant called the Meat Locker. And it used to be the old meat locker in the restaurant. And they allow smoking in there. And I was amazed one night. We took some clients there. And it really was interesting. You know how wine or alcoholic drinks can change the flavor of food and enhance the flavor of food, right? Well, there were some people smoking some really good cigars there in the room. And it was interesting to me how, to me, it actually improved the taste of my steak. It enhanced the flavor. I don't know how that happened. It's just an interesting story, and I like to tell it from time to time. So with that, because I don't want to spend all this time talking about, ChannelCon and smoking cigars. I want to bring on my guest, and my guest tonight is he's the VP of Academy at Pax8, and he is the founder of C-Level Operations. You guys know him best as Rex Frank. Hey, Rex.
Welcome to Academy Live. Oh, wait, wrong show. Sorry.
See, you got me on the first one. How are you tonight, Rex?
Well, I'm nursing the end of the same head cold, I think. I wasn't at ChannelCon, total FOMO for not being there, but I did pick it up somewhere along the line. I was at the National Scout Jamboree, so we took about 60 people from the Seattle contingent down to West Virginia and hung out with 15,000 of our closest friends. And yeah, this is what I'm dealing with almost a week and a half later. So
yeah, it's weird how that happens, right? And I don't know what it is about Vegas in particular. I always come home sick from Vegas. And I don't get in trouble. Like, I don't stay out late. I don't drink a lot. I don't go to, sketchy places. So I don't know what it is.
I get that. My son-in-law is a police officer down there, so I get to hear a lot of interesting stories. But hey, Keith, good to see you. I didn't get to go to ChannelCon this year, but I'm sure we'll catch up at an event soon. Keith and I go way back. It's probably been at least 25 years. So
yeah. I mean, uh, it is really great to be in this industry at this point where there are more than a handful of us, right, who have been in this and in this community for decades now, multiple decades. Uh, so I really
30,
do,
1988, 35 years for me.
yeah. So, I mean, officially, I call my start date 1992 because that's when I started my first break fix company. But technically, you can go about 6 years earlier because I did actually have business cards back when I was 15 years old and was doing computer consulting, and my mom had to drive me to appointments.
I would count that. I absolutely would count that.
It depends on who I'm talking to.
Yeah,
So,
1988, got hired as an entry level tech. I took it, got basic in Pascal on the Apple IIs in high school,
yep,
right? But um, yeah, I was working on Kpro CPM machines with a guy named Ole Thorderson in SoCal. It's now called Alvaca Networks. Man, I was there 19 years. He gave me so much opportunity to grow and mature from a tech to spending a little bit of time in account management, but really taking over that service department. And he was involved in TPG, the True Profits Group. That was back in one of the early peer groups in the 90s that like Arnie Bellini from ConnectWise and Gary Pica and that crew, Arlen from HTG, they were all in that peer group together. And I really felt like I was working on an island as a service manager, not really having much context with what's going on in the industry. And those guys were trying to figure out what managed services was, and they were having these great ideas about how to build managed services, and they'd go back to their businesses and try to implement it through their service managers, and they were having varying degrees of success. And Steve Bowser, the guy that ran True Profits, had this idea: hey, what if I facilitate you guys and then facilitate a group of your service managers, right? And then they can work together to implement the same thing we're trying to implement as owners. And so 2004 kicked off that service exec peer group, and man, definitely like a strategic inflection point in my career, in a positive way, right? That's where I just started learning how to be held accountable to very specific financial metrics and sharing best practices and setting strategic goals and working on those strategic goals, or translating those to tactical goals for each person. And it was really interesting. I was way more concerned of reporting back to my peer group that I didn't achieve something than I was ever dealing with Oli, my boss, right? Like the accountability in that peer group was huge. And I think it really helped lead us to, be a pioneer in that managed services space, um, and be, pretty successful. 30 or 20 years, 19 years there.
yeah. Well, and a great group, right? Alvaca Networks, just an incredible group of people. Have known several of them throughout the years. In fact, uh, uh, I think it was David Cunningham was at ChannelCon.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
So got to talk to him for quite a bit. So before we get just rambling into all of these interesting topics, why don't you give me a little bit more background on because that's early years, right? What got you into the partner enablement and the education piece of it?
It's interesting. My first name is Steven. My middle name is Rex. And I was writing an article for a thing called Stacks the Network Journal about how to use ManageWise to do network remote managed services. And I was getting published, and I thought, I'm going to publish under Rex, my middle name, because it's more unique. And I've been Rex ever since, which is kind of interesting. And people at work started calling me Rex. But then, you know, that that led to me wanting to be out in the community, right? And I started reaching out to people that put on events. Can I be on a panel to help talk about how we're transitioning to managed services? And that just kind of helped grow my own personal brand in the industry. And then, I got active in the ConnectWise user group communities. They had me as a partner, speaking at IT Nation and going to different events. And I got fairly active in the HTG community, and it was a real common thing for people to start asking me, "Hey, can you work with the service manager that I have to help them learn how to run the service departments profitably and efficiently like you do?" And I did that a few times, under the company I was working for. And ultimately, in 2010, I decided that there was a hole in the industry to help technicians promoted to service managers to learn how to stop being a tech and start being a service executive. And that's why I created C-level operations. And I spent the first year with just a handful of clients, and spent most of my time creating this thing that I ultimately called the ops guide. But I was just brain dumping everything I knew about how to run one of these companies, and broke it into 10 different categories. It came up with about 85 different operational objectives that everybody needs to work on in their business. I went to IT Nation and gave a talk as a partner. At C-level, we used ConnectWise Manage internally, but I gave a talk about just really what are these 85 different things you got to work on in your business. And next thing I know, I got a line of people wanting to sign up, and I had to hire a person a year later. It was Ken Sponsler. A year later, Chris Butler joined C-level, and then HTG had us start participating, as a subject matter expert in their owner peer groups, and we took a big role in their service exec peer groups, and that gets us up to, I don't know, 2020, where we had about 20 employees at C-level.
Wow.
It's kind of like, wow. There just seemed to be a big demand, and we were having a lot of success. It was interesting. I kind of set the bar high to be a client. It was an interesting sales methodology. It was, hey, don't sign up if you're not going to commit 10% of your time, 4 hours a week, right?
Yep.
An hour with your coach and 3 hours of homework to work on your business. Don't sign up unless you're ready to commit that. And I actually put some barriers in the sales process. Like we wouldn't call back after an initial meeting. We'd wait for the prospect to reach back out, because what I found is if we pushed at all to just sign up, just try it, you'll love it, right? Whatever. They wouldn't come to the meetings prepared. They wouldn't do their homework. They didn't
Yep.
have a great experience. And and if you asked them, would you refer C-level, they'd be our detractors. But if I put some barriers in the sales process that they had to jump over, and really only engaged with the ones that jumped over, well, that's the same group that shows up to every meeting. They do their homework, they engage, they get the benefit out of using the program, and there are promoters. And that's why we had a 95 net promoter score,
Yep. And
administered by KLA. Like we didn't even administer it and got a 95. I love
I,
that.
that's really important, right? Because I mean, you and I do a lot of educational stuff out here in the industry. I lean a little bit more towards the sales and marketing stuff, but um, we talk often about limiting the people that you take on as clients, and for your purposes, putting those barriers there, making sure you're only getting people who are actually committed is better for your business. It's kind of the same with an MSP, where they really need to be looking for clients who want to convert to the way that the MSP wants to run their IT and is going to be aligned with that.
Yeah, that's why I brought it up in this talk, is that understanding your target client profile and staying within it, maybe being a little bit smaller company, but from a revenue perspective, but having way better profitability, a referral machine that just becomes amazing. I think is more important, and
Yeah.
then you'll grow your business actually faster in the long run by
Yeah.
going slow and smooth in the beginning, right? Slow is smooth and smooth is fast. And I really believe that. Um, so the Pax8 thing, what happened as COVID kind of got kicked off at the end of 19, and in 2020, Craig Donovan, my boss at Pax8, he was kind of asking Pax8's fastest growing partners, like, hey, what are you guys doing to grow so fast? And working with C-level was a real common denominator. So I get this phone call from Craig Donovan and Nick Hetty, end of 2020 and October of 2020, and basically it started off a conversation about partnering with us, but by the end of that phone call, it was clear they wanted to do an acquisition. They wanted more of that. And May 1st of 21, C-level operations became, really the foundation for Pax8 Academy. And for the Southwesterners out there, my leadership team always heard me talking about In-N-Out Burger. Like, no, we're not going to do sales. We're not going to do instructor-led courses. We're not going to do peer groups. We're going to stay focused on one-on-one coaching with service executives and finance leaders and, some owner coaching, but it's one-on-one coaching. So we got to Pax8, and it was an interesting thing. And I knew this, through the negotiation process, but it wasn't, you're going to do one-on-one coaching. It's, Pax8 Academy needs to meet every partner where they are, which is one of these, 4 defined maturity levels, which are pretty standardized in the industry. From the one person shop, in that first maturity level, it's kind of everybody reports to the owner. The second maturity level, it's sort of, there's an owner and a service manager. The rule of 7, right? No manager should have more than 7 direct reports is kind of the guiding factor here. But so then get up to about 15-ish employees in that second maturity stage. And then that third stage, they've got more of a leadership team, right? There's somebody from admin, somebody from finance, somebody from sales, maybe a couple people from service, and the owner form a leadership team that run the company, which gets you, somewhere around 50 employees or something like that. And then there's the hyperscalers, right? The ones that are out there with funding, doing acquisitions, and a lot of mergers and that kind of stuff. So, but it's meet every partner where they are, with which maturity level are they in, and it's a whole different set of content for each one of those, with what they want to learn, which we define as all this how to grow and mature and run your business content that came from C-level. But it's also, there's 80, 90 vendors on the line card, something like that. And we need to educate our partners on why they would use one of those tools and how they would implement it into the way they do business. But we also, if it's a tool in their solution stack, we need to educate their engineers how to use the tool to support the client base, right? So we got this kind of 3-prong approach on what they want to learn. And then we use in the way they want to learn, which we kind of break out as, and I use this gym membership analogy.
But I'm frozen. Well, there we go. Yeah.
Okay. I got a continuous ping running. That's my old tech days. But so anyway, it's like using the gym. You can just go use the machine. You can take an instructor-led course, right? You could take a yoga class or a spin class, and we've got instructor-led courses out there. You can find them at pax8.com/academy. I think we have 22 courses out there in broken up into 4 groups: security, the building your business, the technical stuff. It's we've also got the one-on-one coaching, right? So you can go get the personal trainer and do the one-on-one coaching. So that's still out there. I got to tell you, I'm incredibly proud that we're almost 2.5 years post-acquisition, and everybody that came from C-level is still with Pax8. So
that's unusual.
That's over 20 people. So that's what I'm excited about. We got the peer groups, right? And the way I make the analogy tie into the peer groups is, a couple of years ago, I got involved with the Kids Cancer Charity, and we climbed Mount Rainier. And if you don't know what it is, it's 14,400 feet of glaciers and ice axes and ropes, and it's kind of a thing. But I was in no condition to do that, right? So our group that was climbing together met every Saturday morning to go climb some mountain somewhere, right? And what are the chances, if I'm going by myself and my alarm goes off at 4:30 Saturday morning, I'm getting up, right? It's probably a hard no. But I know that there's a group waiting for me. And as we're doing this training hike, inevitably one of us is going to be like, I'm not really feeling it today. I'm just going to go ahead and I'll see you guys next week. But the group doesn't let you do that, right? They're like,
Right.
no, we're almost, we're halfway there. You got this. Let's. And next thing you know, we're all standing on top of a mountain, right? And when it came to actually climbing summit, right, really important for the peer groups, and it's kind of the same thing. And we started. I think we had 3 peer groups 2 years ago, and we're at 27 peer groups now. So, and they're not just owner groups; they're service exec groups. We've got a peer group for dispatchers. We got peer groups for project managers, back office billing folks, security professionals, right? So we're trying to find those areas in the MSP where there's individuals that feel like they're on an island and don't really have anybody to talk to, and put them together in groups that are facilitated. So those are
Well,
going great too.
and accountability is such a huge thing in our industry because one of the things as technicians turned business people that we are not good at is accountability. So, it's one of those things that just meets us again, like you were saying, it meets us where we're at for a lot of us who are